Well, hello, everybody. Alex DeAnda here at Randall County headquarters on another Friday night edition of Randall County and Conservatives of Texas coming to you. We generally do our Conservatives of Texas on Thursdays, but here lately I've been kind of getting with Randall County and doing some little group participation with our local headquarters. I'm also a precinct chair here tonight. As you can see, we have Travis Hayes, our vice chair. We have our county chair, Tim Revell, and we have Peggy Carter Thomas joining us tonight. Thanks, guys, for coming on.
Welcome. Thanks for having us.
Welcome. Good to be here.
Yeah. We did have Eloy and Eloy Heras slated for tonight. Our apologies. We're going to have to reschedule that. Eloy did come down with a little head cold or whatnot. He called me a couple of hours ago and said we'd have to reschedule. So, Eloy, if you're out there, praying for you to get better, and we will definitely get that rescheduled. I do want to go over just a couple of things as to what he does. He is the vice president. Eloy Heras is the vice president at the War Memorial here in Amarillo, Texas. It's the old, county tax building over there where you used to get your registration. I do want to make mention of some upcoming events out there that you guys would want to perhaps look into. They do have a monthly lecture / seminar series, February 4th at 1:30 p.m., and that is free. The next monthly lecture / seminar series is March 4th after that at 1:30. That's also free. And then they have one August 5th at 1:30, and that's free as well. The website to the Texas Panhandle War Memorial is www.texaspanhandlewarmemorial.com. Go there and see if there's anything that you guys can do to volunteer to help those guys out. They're always looking for good help, and those folks do a lot of great work. Have you guys ever been out there for any kind of event?
Yes. One of the things that is really sweet is that they have one of our homegrown heroes, General Hoover. We put his hat, his helmet, and some of his promotion stuff and things that he got during his time in the service. He was captured in Korea and fought his way out after 2 days of being captive, and was reunited with his units. He was a great hero, and he is a local boy. And so we wanted to make sure that we got all of his material into the museum there, and it's down in the basement.
Wow, pretty amazing. We'll have to take a look and go pay a visit. When I went, for Memorial Day,
he was in Special Forces, and
oh wow,
and when they blew up the building in Oklahoma, I think it happened like at 8:30. By 9 o'clock, he had been notified and was on the road.
Wow.
And he helped go through and find the individuals that blew that building up.
Yeah, that was a wild situation indeed. We'll have to go take a look and see some of his information down there. Each time that I went down there was for Memorial Day, and I'll tell you the Purple Heart service always gets to me whenever they have the families there. It's always real touching. It's something else when they do the presentation. Also, when they walk down to other end of the north end. The soldiers do. It really, I always try to make it a point to take my daughters there every single year so they can attach the reason to the why and the heritage to the love of country. So it always pays tribute to those amazing soldiers. And
Yeah,
their
I
sacrifice.
had the opportunity to go out there when they had that memorial service, and had opportunity, fantastic service, and I had the opportunity to go in and look at everything they have inside that building. I was just blown away. It's fantastic in there. They've done a great job there doing that.
Yes, they have. The president is Bruce Doss, and as I mentioned before, vice president is Eloy Heras, and they have Secretary Melissa Kalka there as well, and I think she ran for commissioner this last election. So y'all go pay them a visit. So tonight, what we're going to speak on, as you can see on the ticker there at the bottom, local politics and the importance of exercising due diligence. You can call into the office here at 359-1606, or even come in and participate live at 3219 South Commerce. And while you're here, if you do happen to come in tonight or during the week, make sure to check out our merchandise. Some people call it swag. All these hats are $20. This one here says Randall, We the People, Randall County Republicans. Pretty nice. Another one here, America First. Liberty or Death, Don't Tread on Me. Second Amendment, God, Guns, and Guts, Made America Free. And last one that I want to show, we have more, but there's just a couple I want to show. This one's the Randall County Republican headquarters in red. And then we also have flags and whatnot, similar to what I have back behind me. So, guys, let's get started. How important is our local politics here in Amarillo, Texas? Go ahead, Peggy.
Okay. I didn't understand how important local politics was until I went to Georgia in December 2020 and came back Actually, I was in the air December 6th, 2021.
Mhm.
And I was asked to campaign for the Loeffler and Purdue runoff in Georgia, the Senate runoff. And when I was there, I heard people lamenting what had happened to Georgia. And it started, every time I'd talk to them about it, they say, they moved in the local areas, and the left wing of the United States, well, not just Democrats, but the left wing of the Democratic Party started moving in, and there was a strategy to it. They got key positions in local politics. And that started changing the nature and the color of the state. It used to be solid red, and I heard it over and over. We used to be solid red. And what happened? I put that together with some other things that I hadn't put together before. I knew everything there was to know about national politics, but I hadn't paid attention to local politics until that time. And I was also considering running. I'd been asked to run for Board of Regents at that time, and I was praying about that, considering it, and starting to really have my eyes open to how important our local politics is. I heard Jeremy File, one of our local pastors, say that our vote in local elections in Amarillo is 7,000 times more significant, more powerful than our vote in national elections. Now, if you want to have power, if you want to have influence, then get out and vote in the local elections, and don't just vote, know who you're voting for. It's important that we know the character of the people that we're voting for, that we can depend on those people to really represent us. And tonight, I'm not speaking as a regent at Amarillo College. I'm speaking as Peggy Carter Thomas. It's important that we know who we're voting for and that we put godly people in places of authority. You know, I can't remember who it was. It said the only thing necessary for evil to succeed is that good men do nothing. And we need good men running, good men and women. We need the people that that understand the answer not just to their constituency, but also to God in places of authority, so that we can return our country back from the grassroots up to a godly nation again.
Well, you know, in Exodus chapter 18, verse 21, it reads out of the New Living Translation, but select from all the people some capable, honest men who fear God and hate bribes. Appoint them as leaders over groups of 1,000, 150, and 10. In some versions, of course, it says covetousness, who hate covetousness. And of course, where it says the man, it's a general statement. It's men and women, of course. And so, how important is that, Travis, to, you know, see that decree in the Word of God that we should, as followers of Christ and believers in Him, be involved in trying to either run or select these types of candidates.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I just in my personal life, when I became involved as a volunteer here at the office several years ago, that God had told me when I would just complain in my recliner at home, God had told me, well, you're not going to get nothing done sitting here. So I'd like to give that advice to everybody out there that might think, that have seen things on TV, have seen things that's going on in our country, and saying, hey, I need to volunteer. I'm the volunteer coordinator here at the office, and we can only keep the office open for limited times because we have a lack of volunteers. So I would just encourage those that are watching just to come in, sign up. It's only going to take a couple of hours a week out of your time to help us out, and it'll be a tremendous help. We also have a sign-up sheet for various functions in our city, like the school board meetings and the Amarillo College meeting, which Peggy is the regent at Amarillo College. And we need people to attend those meetings and show up and show those people that the people in the community are interested in what they are doing, and they're looking at what they're doing. So I think the local volunteer effort is very, very important.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, folks that are out there that are going to be watching this during the week or later on tonight, it's very important that we become a presence in the community at community events. You know, we just attended one last night there at the Cultural Center in the Heights. We're going to be attending one on the east side in February. You just got to get plugged in the best way that you can. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it all on your own. We create teams, you know, so one person can go 1 month and another person can go the next, and then we collaborate and speak on it collectively later on. And it really helps keep folks from getting burnt out or fatigued. If there's an issue out there that you see needs to go out to the community, then go out to the community. You know, we have a lot of things that have occurred over the course of the last several months that we've been involved in, and letting our constituency know is why we are chairs and precinct chairs and whatnot. That's our role as elected officials, and that's so important. Yes, we meet here once a month, but we got to get out into our community, and we have to get the information out. That's very, very important. Tim, as county chair, what are some things you look for whenever it comes to speaking to folks that you think might be a good candidate. I know that when Peggy came in, she was interested in becoming a chair, and then you said, "Hey, guess what? We have a position here." So, kind of tell us how you comb through those things.
Well, couple of things. Let me preface this by um, everybody remembers the election when Beto ran against Cruz. Um, that was a very close election. Um, Cruz won by 200,000 votes, and the the major part of the votes that pushed him across the line were from the um, kind of outside the realm of towns and in the state, but most notably the election votes from Randall County. Randall County is the most Republican county in the United States. And so we really carried Cruz across the line because we matched the votes from San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas. And so it was really important. We did the same thing this last election with Governor Abbott. You wouldn't think that our vote is important because we're in the sticks, but it is very important. Our primary vote this last year was 18% of the people voted. The election, the primary or the general election, where we really helped was the fact that 50% of Randall County voted. And so that really helped Abbott go across the line. So that's one of the things that I have been working on. We got block walkers out for the general election and really beat the bushes and got people to get out and vote. But that is probably the number one thing that was important to push the people, the Republicans, across the line and get them elected to the statewide offices. And so that's one of the things that I have really tried to get people out to do. And Alex, what was the other part of your question?
Well, when you meet folks, I'm sure that you have yeah.
What do I see that would make a good precinct chair or a good leader? Basically,
Candidate for a region or for a school board or even city council.
One of the things that they have a servant's heart, because not many people have decided to go against me because I work 18 hours a day and do 80 hours a week with no pay. And so it's one of those things to have a servant's heart to do it and a love of country. Because if we don't get up and get moving and do things to get the good people elected, that Benjamin Franklin thing that for the country to fall was when good men do nothing. And so we have to get up and get going and do things. It's a lot of fun, though, because when somebody comes to town, we get to go see them. And it's really a neat deal to be able to go up and shake hands with the governor or whatever, because we're all just good common people that are working for the party. So it's not self flagellation, or to get patted on the head and say you're a good person. It's to do something good for our country.
That's good, and that's a good response, Tim. Out of Randall County, we've been pushing Freedom First West Texas. It's a group of kids, youngsters that have been interning for Ronnie Jackson, Chip Roy, other candidates across the state, and those guys are going to be the next generation of power players. And we're just so glad that Tim has established that coming out of this office. We were here talking when we were getting this building, and I remember being over here to the right, and I says, we got to get some kids involved. Tim, we got to figure something out. We've got to find some of these youngsters to take on the next role, when it comes to hitting the ground running. And so many of these youngsters today, they're just looking at the TikTok and at the Snapchat and Instagram and whatnot. They're more based on reacting instead of being proactive. And I got to say, Adrian Avila and Jade Kirkpatrick and Grady Hodge, and also Luke Brown. These guys, I think Adrian's going to be going with you to Austin. Those guys, that's their neck of the woods now. I mean, they're always going and doing things like that. And I think it's absolutely critical that we keep these kinds of folks involved locally. They had a forum last year or 2 years ago. They had the mayor there. They had the regents there. They had some AISD folks there. They had city council folks, Cole Stanley and whatnot. The youngsters are really sharp coming out of Randall County for sure. So those are some things that we're pushing out of Randall County. So you guys, please contact the office so we can get you and your youngsters plugged in. One more thing I would want to speak on is when it comes to the local elections, how critical is it, guys, that we exercise our due diligence in knowing who these candidates are, within our own proxy, because, we can get caught up kind of getting complacent and just leaning on trusting what others are saying. How important is it to just take about 20 minutes of your time a week, Google a person's name, do your own little research, go to a couple of different sites, and actually know who these people are? I mean, it is absolutely inexcusable today with access to any bit of information on the internet. We elected several people out of the reddest county that are true blue other side, all because they took a picture with somebody or they said the right things. All you have to do is type in their name, and it'll pull up their Instagram. It'll pull up any interviews they did with whoever or whatever the case is, and you can actually listen to it on your own. A lot of people do a lot of work with Democrat Party and other Democrat Party groups in other cities, so they can kind of hide out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so when they get here, they run as, conservatives, but they're not, so it's just inexcusable when you can't go to your computer and exercise your own due diligence, so, and it's proof in the pudding. And you look at the fruit of the numbers whenever the election results come out. When a person ran just 6-7 months previously and they couldn't get the votes generated, and then they do something like take a picture with a Ronnie Jackson or or Governor Abbott, and then the next election, conservatives come out thinking that, oh, this guy must be a conservative because they're not doing their homework. That person gets 3 times as many votes, and you're like, well, there you go. But yeah, you have to do your due diligence. Some of these local races. What are you guys thinking as far as any dark horses out there, or any favorites that you guys have seen?
Well, one thing that is really important when you say know the person,
Mhm.
it's good to vote in the general election for the president. Everybody does that. It's civic duty. But when it comes to voting for local person, they say, oh, my vote doesn't count. The Republican is going to win. Well, the majority of the people running are Republican, registered as Republican. But whether they are acting as a Republican is entirely different. And so you need to go to a couple or 3 forums where people ask them questions and see how they act, because how they act has a direct bearing on your taxes, even minuscule things like how often the garbage truck comes by and takes away the garbage in the alley or wherever the container is. I don't know about you, but when they cut to the service once a week, our garbage container was always full. And if you didn't get there right after the truck did and put it in an empty container, you didn't get to put it in because everybody would save their garbage up because the thing was full.
Mm-hmm.
And so your taxes, your water bills, things like that are things that you can directly control by your vote. And so it is more important. I want to think for me and my family to vote in the local elections, and it's more 50-50 with which ones, if you pick one, whether you're going to pick the presidential election or the local election, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck if you vote in the local election.
Yes, for sure.
And I think the mentality of a registered voter is, well, everything's conservative or everything's Republican, and on local issues like that, you have like in this recent midterm election, you had 79% of the voters that didn't bother they were registered, but they did not bother to vote. So it's important that we get out to vote and we tell those people that it is very important that they go and vote when it's time to vote. And like you say, they have a choice in who they choose, who they think. They need to go and listen to these speakers, listen to what their platform is, and vote about for who would be the best for them.
Alex, are we going to have on randallcountygop.com the dates and times of the forums? Do you know? Or Tim?
Yes, we will. In fact, last week we interviewed 2 of the people that are running for the precincts 2 and
2 and 3.
4? 2 and
2 and
3.
3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so those, we've already started doing those things.
So if you want to know when the forums are going to be. Go to randallcountygop.com and take a look.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to tell you a little story. The three of you have heard it, I know. But when I was in my 20s, I was teaching a Sunday school class, and most of the people in there were about 40 years older than me plus. And I made a statement that God didn't need the church at a certain address in Amarillo. The church at that address needed God. And there was a cantankerous old man in the back, and he folded his arms up and he said, well, where were you in 1962 when they took prayer out of the schools? Well, everybody's going to know how old I am now. My birthday is 9/1/62. I'm 60. And so I was in my mother's womb the entire year of 1962. And so I answered him honestly. I said, well, I was in my mother's womb. Where were you? And that's what the Lord used to get me active in 2020 was, what was I going to tell my kids? What was I going to tell my grandkids that I did to keep our country free?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to ask each one of you that. What are you going to do this year in Amarillo? In 2 years in the general elections, the national elections, but this year in Amarillo, what are you going to do to keep Amarillo the wonderful community that we have right now? Are you going to run for office? Are you going to get out and vote? Are you going to knock on doors for somebody that you know is a really good candidate, a godly candidate, a capable candidate? What are you going to do in 2023 to keep Amarillo the wonderful city that it is? So I challenge you with that. It's not enough. I heard a precinct chair when I was discussing the last election, and like what Alex has said, there wasn't a big turnout. Tim was talking about it. Travis was talking about it. There wasn't a big turnout, and a few people elected candidates that some people were, a bunch of people were really upset about. And yet the county chairs, I asked them, how many of you got out and did something? And because I wasn't even sure what a county chair, what a precinct chair did at that time. Like I said, I wasn't involved in local politics, unfortunately and regrettably. And at a certain precinct meeting, 2 people raised their hands and said that they got out and knocked on doors. And I said, how many of you made phone calls? And 1 person raised their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sad to me. Well, when I was recounting this in front of someone that had been a precinct chair, they said, well, we don't have to do anything. Randall County is Republican. We know how it's going to go. And honestly, I was very disappointed in that person's response, because we don't have a guarantee. And, people that don't think the way that we think, that don't believe the way that we believe, that would be offended by what I'm saying about God and country together in the same sentence, they're getting out and they're doing something because they're passionate, and they typically move as one. They aren't independent thinkers necessarily. They're not individuals. They move as a group, as a herd. We've got to be responsible, and we've got to get out, not just vote, but take somebody with you. Have a watch party. Do something to get interest generated in Amarillo, because as we go in Randall County, we influence the state. As Tim pointed out, and Ronnie Jackson had told me, he said, you don't understand how important what you do in Randall County is, because Randall County helps carry Texas red. If we lose Randall County to the left wing, then we lose the state. If we lose the state, we could lose the nation. And y'all, our country is on fire. I don't think I have to tell you that, but I'm going to remind you. We've got to do our part, each one of us. And so I challenge you, what are you going to do in 2023? What are you going to tell your kids you did in 2023 to get good people, godly people into local, into our local positions of authority into the politics in Amarillo. We've got to do something.
Well, here's a snapshot of registered voters um, here in Randall County. In 16, we'll go back to 16, 85,000 folks were registered to vote, 85,106. Of that 85,000, we had 54,000 that voted. Okay, that's 63%, 63.67. In 18, we had 85,464 that were registered, and 48,000 voted. That's 57%. In 2020, it increased to 93,313, and 64,000 of the 93,000 went out to vote, which is 69%. 22, 95,933 registered voters, and we had 48,000. So I guess the reason for those drops, of course, is some of those years, it's presidential and whatnot, but still, nonetheless, you're still hovering around 60 to 65% in your snapshot. So if we can increase those numbers to the high 80s, we'll never have to worry about Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas ever becoming, the carrier of getting a Beto elected. Beto came to Amarillo, when he ran for Senate at least 6 times. When he ran for governor against Abbott, both of these guys were Republican, and he came to the hottest, reddest county numerous times. So what is that telling you? They know that they need to take us out. They know that they need to offset those numbers and decrease the number of actual registered voters in getting out. They know it behooves coming up, though, is one thing. Well, gotta wait for this thing to come back up. Coming to Amarillo for Beto is one thing, but him being comfortable enough to be here time and time again tells me there's something else going on. He's connecting with people. Mm-hmm. He is having dinner with people. He is having conferences with people. I mean, he just went to Amarillo College this last time around and looked as comfortable as a lark there, We, as a red county, as red as we are, it amazes me how many people that are on boards or in leadership in our school boards, our college school boards, that are inviting these people. What is going on? I mean, if we're so red, why are these folks, these professors, these, we have folks at AISD School Board, they're hosting Beto. Aaron Phillips, Kim Anderson, they hosted Beto here at the courthouse. And these guys are sitting on our school boards, We have to go to these forums. We have to go to these meetings. You have to just Google names. It'll tell you on there who's who. And it just takes a little bit of research to know who is inviting these folks time and time again. Just type in Beto Amarillo, and the funny thing about the algorithms is they can't help it. It's going to have to tell you who's what, So if you just type in Beto/Amarillo or whatever the case is, it'll pull up interviews, whatever, and just listen to them for yourself so you'll know who is bringing who here. It's very, very important to know what's going on behind that curtain. Once you find out, you may not like it, but it's still the truth. And we have someone said hello on here, which is nice. Thank you. Hello, Kaser Conquer H. Looks like they have Who's that politician on their screen? I'm gonna show it here real quick so y'all can see it. Okay, it's too small for my eyes, but nonetheless, we have, I believe, Don Tips. He's running for. Well, I know we interviewed him, so it's not a belief. I know that he is because we interviewed him last week. He's running for place 2. Tom Sherlin running for place 3. 4, I guess that's going to be, is that Gunny Brown so far that's announced? I don't know if anyone else has announced. And then 1, I haven't heard. Oh, Cole Stanley, he's gonna run again. I haven't heard of anyone opposing him just yet. And then we have Mayor. I can't make out the name, but it's like a Tai or something like that. And then one other person, I can't remember who that is. It's kind of folks that are wanting to run, I think, are waiting for the very last week, I guess, for strategic reasons or whatnot. I've heard names out there, but I don't know if I'm at liberty to speak on those here. But I think that if you have a conviction, you don't wait, you go. Strategy's out the door. I mean, if you're going to say, God told me, and it was 3 or 4 days before the finalization of the date, I don't think you can use that. Because if God told you, He told you. So we've been, we know that this isn't a secret. Alex Fairley's name is out there. It's on billboards and whatnot. Alex, please run, or whatever the case is. What are y'all's thoughts on that? Do y'all think that? I think a couple of you guys have been to a couple of events where he spoke, and I guess he says it's not really his thing right now. I don't know. I haven't been to any of them, so what do you guys say?
Well, I would like to tell people that the Amarillo College has 3 openings in this election.
Uh-huh.
And in the Amarillo College elections, you have an opportunity to vote 3 times for any candidate that would be there.
Yeah.
And I just encourage them to get out and listen to those candidates, listen to what they have to say, and get involved in local politics.
And let me clarify just a little bit. Every 2 years, 3 regents come up for reelection. And there's, let me see, Jay and Michelle, Jay Barrett, Michelle Fortunato, and Sally Jennings are up for reelection. Whether they choose to run or not is their choice. So there was a little misunderstanding earlier that it sounded like there were 3 people that were not going to be running again. That's not the case. But it's true that when you vote in an at-large election like the Board of Regents and I believe AISD, you can cast all of your votes for one person, or you can divide your votes up. And so you can vote 2 and 1, or 1 and 2, or all 3 for 1, or 1 for 3 different people. In the case of AISD, it's 4 votes. But as far as I know, the regents are still going to be running. And so I can't confirm that none of them are. But like I said, there was a little confusion about that. But it is important. And it's difficult. I was very reluctant to run. Tim can attest to that. And I had a friend I said, if God would just tell me, if I could just get a phone call from God and him say, yes, Peggy, you're supposed to run. This friend said, I think he's told you, you just aren't comfortable with this answer. And that was true, because I felt very unqualified. What qualifies you to run is the classes that you take once you're elected. In every position that you're elected to, There are classes after the election that you take that qualify you to be in that position. And so if you feel that God's calling you to run for a position, I encourage you to explore that and start walking in that direction. Um, it's not easy, but nothing that's worth having is ever easy. And there's very few things that God calls us to that's easy if we try to do it on our own. But with Him, it doesn't matter who opposes you. It doesn't matter who tries to snuff you out. If God wants you in a position, He'll put you there. And I can speak to that by experience. And so if God's calling you to something, I encourage you to step out in faith and be a willing servant. If He doesn't want you there, then He may be calling you to run for a different reason. But explore with God what He would have you do. Explore how He would have you vote, because this is critical for our children, and for the area that we raise our children in. Like I said, in Georgia, I really learned a very important lesson, and I came back with a whole different attitude about local elections.
Mm.
Yeah, one of the things that you may not know is that in Texas we have they have passed a law that we don't have CRT in our schools, but there are teachers that are teaching it now, and if our school boards are not pressuring the schools to stop that, they will continue doing that. And they are teaching kids as, first graders about sex. And I don't know about you, but I think that is way too early to start sexualizing our kids. And that's one of the reasons why next month Travis and I and Adrian Avila are going to Austin to lobby our legislature to enforce those laws that they have passed, and to make it mandatory that the school boards enforce that.
Yes, sir. I do want to look at some of these things here. As far as a local election, I didn't mention Frida Powell. She did announce. I didn't remember that for some odd reason, but here on myhighplains.com, it says that she announced her plan to run. We also have Hobart Gunny Brown. That was from News Channel 10, of which we mentioned him. Don Tips. And what are y'all's positions as far as I'm not asking who you're going to vote for, but what are your thoughts on some of these candidates that are announced? I think Frida Powell was, of course, under Ginger, and I guess she was there, three
Right.
terms?
My personal thoughts is overall, I feel like candidates for elected office that are not required to reveal any kind of party affiliation can really not open themselves up to be free with the people that might vote for them. I feel that they should let the people know who they are and what they represent. I don't know any better way to do that than know what your party affiliation is.
So you're thinking if someone were to ask a question, that should be one of the things they ask is.
That should be a question I would definitely like them to ask.
Mm-hmm. Well, depending on which county you're in, I mean, you could actually reach out to your chair, and they could look that up for you. I would think, but that's what I would do if I was a voter out there and I wanted to know, for my own self-interest, which party these folks aligned up with. I would contact your county chair and just make a phone call. Hey, so can you look and see what the voted? It won't tell you who they voted for, but it tells you which party. You know,
If they voted in the
It-
primary.
yeah, it'll show you. And there's databases out there that you can find, and it shows how these folks, which party they vote for. There's a question here: if we want to get involved with the county, who should we reach out to? So I would say I'm going to give that to Tim here in a minute, but as a precinct chair, that's one thing we have to get better at. We have to get out in our community and go to the local, the neighborhood school or whatever it may be, restaurants. Go introduce yourself, let them know who you are, pass out cards. I have 5,000 in my precinct. What I do is I go look for the patriotic flag. I'll look for a flag. I know those people are probably plugged in, connected somehow. I introduce myself, and that's what I do. So, Tim, to the question, if we want to get involved with the county, who should we reach out to? Who would that be?
Well, they can call the office here, or they can call me.
And the number
And
there is 806-359-1606. It's on the ticker down here.
yes, and mine is 806-290-8142.
All right. Do we have a night drop box or anything? Maybe they could put something in there.
And I keep my phone with me all the time.
Yes, sir. Is there a drop box if they wanted to leave
Sure,
information? There is.
sure. We have a mailbox just to the left of the door.
Mhm.
They can slip it in there. When we get the people that are manning the office, they check that on the way in.
Okay.
If they do come to the office, Alex, we have a QR code on the door.
Oh,
They can
good.
just shoot that and fill out a form, ask questions, whatever they want to do on that form, and we can get in touch with them.
Okay. I wouldn't advise putting something in the mail without a stamp. Get in trouble for that. Just to let y'all know. I'm sure Tim knows that too. I'm sure he was going to address that here momentarily. But as far as the other positions, Don Tips, have y'all got to meet him? I think his interview went really well last Friday. What do you guys think as far as that position?
No, I went to church with Don Tips
Did you?
for a long time, and I have a high regard for him as an individual, and I think that he'll do a good job. I really think a lot of him and Cole Stanley as well. I knew them from church as well as getting to know Cole when we were
Yeah.
running for office this last time.
I'll tell you, Cole is outstanding. I
Yes.
really respect that he wants to put in another, term into place one. I respect his integrity, and that's what he, has told people that's what he wants to do. And I can't say enough about his character, but I think really honestly, the time is now. I think he should run for mayor. That's what I think. I would like to see him as mayor of Amarillo. I know he's got a lot of things that he probably needs to get situated, but I would love to see him as our mayor. And it isn't just because we just recently found out that, Mayor Nelson isn't going to run again. I've been telling him this for some time now.
Mhm.
I just didn't say mayor. I just said, you need to be in a position higher than city council. I'm just telling you right now. And Cole, if you're out there listening in future days, I've told you that many times. So it's not something that I think that he needs to shy away from totally. So if y'all know Cole personally, put
I've
that
told
in
him the
his
same thing.
ear. I think he'd be an outstanding mayor. So
There's another question. Retro
yes.
TV said, does that mean that there's only one person that handles the whole county or city?
So does this mean there is only one person that handles the whole county or city as far as, I guess, I guess representing the GOP. Is that kind of how y'all read that?
That's how
Yeah.
I'm reading it.
Okay.
There's two. Go ahead.
So, you know, Amarillo's real unique. We do have two counties within the same city. And so, you know, there are mass emails that go out from time to time. Ours is just going to say Randall County GOP whenever we send anything. And if you ever have any questions or any concerns, you can just call the office directly. Um, there is Potter County emails, I think, that go out under Amarillo GOP, you know, uh, which, you know, I think they should probably put in parentheses Potter County or whatnot, since, you know, there is two counties represented in Amarillo. Tim, do you want to touch on that at all?
Yeah. When they want to have information, um, I try to give good, concise information and not a dissertation. And so if I try to keep abreast of the people that are running in the primary election, the uh, county, the Republican Party is supposed to be neutral for the Republican candidates. So I don't feel that I can push one candidate more than another if they're Republican. Um, and so I can, if you call in and say, you know, who's running, I can usually tell you who's running and kind of the things that they stand for. Um, as far as the city, um, uh, I'm an old person from the group that elected, we elected three city councilmen 1 year from that were Tea Party candidates. So since that time, there hasn't been a majority of one group or another after that. But we had good governance during that time, and they really did represent the people, and so we can disseminate information. I try to keep abreast of when the forums are happening, and so that they should start up pretty soon for the election in May. And so that's when we're going to vote in our city candidates. So they schedule several different groups. Uh, they each group has their own days, so you can go to different groups and see if the candidates are saying the same thing every time, because different people ask questions from different viewpoints. And that's really interesting to see how a candidate will answer them.
Alex, before we close, I'd like to make some closing statements about our 88th legislator in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I could just put this up and let people see that.
Mm-hmm.
The county chair and I and the president of Freedom First of West Texas, Adrian Avila, will be in Austin on February the 6th and 7th for House Bill 631, which involves parental consent in education. And we would really like to get their input if they would contact us and give us their input on that so we can take it down there and represent them.
I see. Well, thank you, Travis, for that. I put a note on here for the viewers. You guys are more than welcome to Google my name. You're going to find some things on there that are very good, and maybe a couple of things that aren't so good. But I would challenge you guys to just reach out to me personally so we can discuss anything that may be out there, because it's very, very important. Here we are as precinct chairs, as individuals here that are more than transparent. You guys can reach us or reach me at this number or reach any of us at the office number at any time. I think our time is up. It's already 8 o'clock. That went by really, really fast. I do want to read this last question. If I understand you correctly, I think each county has zones within it, which are led by a precinct chair. That's correct. So they generally are around 5,000 people, registered voters. And as precinct chairs, that's our job. We're supposed to be getting out and meeting folks. It doesn't mean you meet them at a Taco Villa. You know, you get out and you go door knocking, and you really take the position seriously. I mean, you've told the folks that you raise your right hand and I'm going to defend the republic. It's a lot of fun. I've never had a day that I didn't have fun doing it. So I really enjoyed it a lot. So guys, I think that's it. We're at 8:01. Thank you for tuning in, Peggy, Travis, and Tim. Thank you for joining
watching.
on tonight. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.